Listen, if you're not taking money from my salary, then sign me up. Sign a sister up.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Ashil, and I'm back with a new video. This video is to address the number of questions that I got after my last video, which if you have not seen, I'm going to link it right up here. Go watch it before you watch this one. Go to watch this one. Yes, so for those of you who have not seen it, I moved to the US this month, yeah, this month, and a lot of persons were interested in how I moved as a nurse and had quite a few questions to ask. So I'm just going to address these questions. So if you're interested in knowing how I moved up here as a USRN, please stay tuned and watch till the end of the video.
So today we have quite a few things to discuss. So I'm not depending on my memory. For those of you who know me personally, you know it's terrible. So I cannot depend on that. So I have my notes here on my laptop, and I also have some things that I jotted down as well, just so I don't forget anything, because I want this to be as thorough and as informative as possible. So like I said, I did get quite a few questions as to what my process was like and just how the entire move was for me. So I'm just going to answer those questions that I got from Instagram, I got from WhatsApp, I got from several mediums. So I'm just going to answer to ensure that everybody at least has an answer to one thing that they were thinking of. So my first question: how did you come across the opportunity to move to the US? So I knew from the inception that I did not want to do nursing in St. Lucia. For those of you who are watching for the first time, it's my home country. This is where I'm from. I know that I did not want to stay in St. Lucia to do nursing. It was always my dream, always my intention to move across to the US to do nursing. And of course, once I became a nurse, I started doing my research and found quite a few, well, not quite a few, probably like two, which were the more popular agencies in St. Lucia at the time. And I did my research and gravitated, I should say, towards one of them, which I will not mention the name because I'm no longer with them. But yes, so I looked for agencies and I reached out. And of course, they told me about the process. And when I say agencies, I mean staffing agencies, right? So staffing agencies are pretty much companies which look for nurses, international nurses to recruit, not necessarily from the Caribbean. That could be from the Philippines, from anywhere in the world. They recruit nurses to bring across to the US to work. And of course, with that, you are promised a green card for you and your dependents. You're guaranteed work, etc. So I went through that route, right? Second question: what agency did you go with and what do they provide? So the agency that I ended up with in the end is Passport USA, Health Carousel Passport USA. And what they provided was, of course, the opportunity to move to the US. And like I said, they give you a green card, your family and yourself, of course, your immediate family. So if you're married, your husband, your wife, and your children. So these persons get green cards to move to the US, or permanent residency cards to move to the US. Like I said, you're guaranteed a job. One thing that drew me to this agency was the fact that they do not take from your salary. So usually with the staffing agencies, they, in addition to providing you with the green card and a job, your payback is usually in time. So you work for whatever hospital you're assigned to, whatever facility, it might be a skilled care facility, whatever it is you're assigned to, they give you a specific period to work with that hospital, that facility. And once you complete your end of the contract, then of course your end of the bargain is paid. So this is how they get their payments. The hospital that you are assigned to is who pays them, and they in turn pay you. So yes, you may be working at a hospital, but you're not working for the hospital, you're working for the staffing agency, because they're the ones who pay you, right? So of course, like I said, you get the opportunity to work for them, and they do provide study materials as well. So they help you with study materials for the NCLEX, for the IELTS. So the NCLEX is the nursing exam, the nursing licensure exam to work in the US. The IELTS is I don't remember what the acronym stands for. It's pretty much an English exam just to test your language proficiency and how fluent you are in the English language, because of course that is the language that they speak in America. So yes, so these are pretty much what they provide you with. Thirdly, what is the process if you approach an agency, and what documents do they require? So I'm just going to give you an overview of my process and pretty much like a timeline of what happened from the time I started to the time to where I'm at now, I should say, because I'm not ended. Yes, so I started my entire process in 2019. I'm not sure of the exact date, but I started in 2019. This is when I approached my first agency, and of course they took me on board. 6 months later, I was prepared to write the exam. And when I say prepared, they do give you study material, they give you quizzes, so you have your weekly quizzes. These are pretty much based on what you've already done at school. So they prepare you to take the NCLEX exam. They give you your study material. I think they did give a 1 month UWorld pass. So you had access to the UWorld questions for 1 month before the exam, if I remember clearly. Like I said, my memory is terrible, so don't take my word for it. But they did for sure give a UWorld access pass. After I took my exam in 2019. So I think I started early in 2019, and I took my exam later that year. So that exam I failed. I was not successful with this exam, and later during this video I will tell you why, because it was my fault. So I did not succeed, and of course after that came 2020, and COVID was the topic of the hour. So that dragged my process a bit more because airlines were closed and I wasn't able to fly, etc. So I took that time just to chill out and just reevaluate what the process was for me when I first went and what I should do differently. So again, like I said, we'll talk about that later in the video. Fast forward to May of 2021, I decided that I was ready to take the exam again. I had done my studying. I felt like I was ready. So I asked them to schedule me for May of 2021, which I was successful with the exam. Yes, so I was successful with my exam in May with that agency. Before, they used to schedule your NCLEX exam and then have you write the IELTS exam one time. But like I said, they don't cater only to Caribbean people who speak English. They do cater to persons whose second language is English. So you felt like these persons were pretty much studying for 2 exams. When they went to write that one exam, they would schedule them for the IELTS exam as well as the NCLEX exam. So what they did, they stopped doing that, and they would only schedule you for your NCLEX, and you would have to take another flight because, okay, let me not get ahead of myself. So the NCLEX exam is not done in St. Lucia. The NCLEX exam is done in the US, and I think I may be wrong, but I think it's done in the UK as well. But most persons go to the US to do that exam. So the NCLEX exam is done in the US. So, of course, your IELTS exam is done in the US as well. The IELTS is the English exam, like I said. I'm trying to remember what it stands for, but I can't. But yes, so they would schedule you to write both of these. And like I said, persons who are not familiar with the English language would be studying for the NCLEX and studying for the IELTS as well. So you find that they would not pass one or the other. So what they did was send persons to write the NCLEX, and then once you pass, you write the IELTS. But I am very competent, I should say, with the English language. So I felt like I could have done both my exams at the same time. So I requested it, and of course they granted it. So I did my exam on the 19th of May, and I remember it because it was my mother's birthday. And I had my IELTS exam scheduled the following Saturday. So I was successful in both of them. So I took them both in May of 2021, right? During that time, after I passed the exam, I knew I was not going to stick to the agency that I originally started with, because while I waited, I did more research, and apparently what they offered was not in keeping with what persons got when they actually moved to the US. So I'm like, I don't think that's for me. So I started doing research. So my research was based on trying to choose between a direct hire agency as opposed to a staffing agency. And I will just briefly differentiate between the two, because I feel like I can probably do a separate video on that. So the direct hire is a company or an agency which hires you for a hospital. So they deal with all the immigration process, etc., but you actually work for the hospital, as opposed to the staffing agency where you work for the agency. So you don't work for the hospital, you work for the agency. So that's the main difference between the two of them. Of course, with the staffing agency, they pay you a little less, because what the hospital pays them is not what you're getting paid, right? So the hospital pays them for you, and they pay you a certain rate. But with the direct hire, you get whatever the hospital pays, all the other staff is what you're getting. So of course I was leaning towards the direct hire, but at the time they were requesting a bachelor's degree to work in the hospital setting. But if you did not have that, you would have been assigned to a skilled care facility like the nursing home, etc. So I did not have my bachelor's at the time. I decided that I did get an interview and everything, but I'm like, I know myself, skilled care nursing facilities are not for me. So I'm like, no, I think that I will go with the staffing agency, just, try to weather it out and stick to that. So that is how I ended up going with the staffing agency, which is Passport USA. In July of 2021, which is, yes, that's when I approached Passport USA and showed my interest. And of course, I did the interview, which is nothing really. They literally just learning about you. What qualifications do you have? Have you written the NCLEX? Have you taken the IELTS, etc.? They're just literally learning about you to decide what category they put you in. Because I think there's a category for persons who have not written the NCLEX, and the category for those who have. So of course, I ended up in the category for those who had written the NCLEX. And of course, during that time, they took over my CGFNS. CGFNS is the Commission of Graduates of Foreign Nursing Schools. I have it written, but there's a glare. So it's Commission on Graduates of Foreign Nursing Schools, and it's pretty much a credential evaluation system where they evaluate your grades, your nursing license from your foreign country, etc. So they took over that from my previous nursing agency, and this was all when I just started with them. So of course this took some time to get all my stuff approved with CGFNS and all of the works. And in December 2021 was when my documents were all sent, everything that they requested. So of course my passport bio page, of course I was married, so they needed my marriage certificate, my everything, like all the documents. These were sent to USCIS, and USCIS, I think I have written, do I don't think I do. Oh yes, so it's the US Citizenship and Immigration Service. So all my documents were sent to USCIS to be approved, and that took some time. That took a little time. During that time, I did have my interview. I started interviewing with certain places. So the agency does ask you what your preferences are in terms of your states you want to go, and they try to get you hospitals or assignments based on whatever state you want to go. So I had, I think, 5. They asked you for 5, but my very first interview was with a hospital in Atlanta, and of course that was one of my choices, so I was more than ecstatic. I was really happy, and it was a children's hospital because of course you know that I am a NICU nurse by now, so it was with a children's hospital, and I was like really happy because yes. But that interview went very well, so I accepted that offer. I had no issues, and again the waiting game continued for my documents to be documentarily qualified. So they documentarily qualified is just a big word to say that they went through all your documents and they can forward it to the NVC, which is a National Visa Center, to ensure that everything is good and ready to schedule your immigration interview. So like I said, let's backtrack. These documents were sent across in December of 2021. In March of 2022 was when I got documentarily qualified. So it took about the 3 months, which is what the expected time frame is. They do tell you that it takes about 3 months. So it did take the 3 months, and at this time my documents were at NVC and I was just waiting for an interview. So at this time, of course, I'm getting excited, I'm getting nervous, things are happening, but they're telling you that don't get your hopes up because you may not get an interview date for months because of the backlog that happened during COVID. You may not have gotten an interview date for like probably a year later, etc. So of course, I'm a child of God. And I told God, I kid you not, I told God, listen, I am not leaving St. Lucia after July 2022. So whatever you have to do, do it. I am dead serious. I literally had a conversation with him. And I started to fast and pray because I was like, no, I'm not. I wanted to leave. I was at a point where I was starting to get frustrated because you see the timeline. I started in 2019, and of course I wasn't actively working on it for like a year or so, but I was getting to the point where I was starting to get frustrated. So I'm like, God, July 2021, that's it. That's all I'm giving you. 2022, sorry. That's all I'm giving you. And I had a little incentive. I'm like, try to make it after Carnival because, but who am I to tell God when to make it? So who am I to tell God when to give me to bring me by to the US by? So he's like, sis, I got you, but you see that little additional thing you add there now. So I'm getting ahead of myself. So got documentarily qualified in March 2022. I got my interview scheduled in April. Less than 4 weeks later, I got that interview scheduled. All praises to the Most High, because listen, I did not think that I was not going to be in the US by July. There was no doubt, because I told God what I wanted, and I know that He usually comes through for me. He always comes through for me. So listen, I was not worried. I know that I was going to be in the US by July, and it did not waver. My faith did not waver at all. So He did come through as usual, nothing new. I had my interview scheduled for the end of April, which literally they emailed me like the middle of April to tell me that my interview was going to happen the next week. I'm like, what? No, I'm not ready for that. So of course I had my documents, like my police record and all of these things that they ask you to bring. I did not have all of these ready. So I was like, in a limbo because I didn't want to reschedule the interview, and I did not get a date, a close enough date. But I know there was no way I could have gotten everything that I needed to go to Barbados the following week. So I prayed again. I'm like, God, I know I asked for this, but honestly, just give me like a little 2 or 3 weeks. Just give me a little 2 or 3 weeks to get everything together, and I will do that. And lo and behold, I emailed the people. I told them that I could not have made the following week if there was any available date later, maybe probably in like 2 or 3 weeks. And lo and behold, I got my appointment, my interview for the 19th of May. The 19th of May 2022. And if you would remember, I had my NCLEX exam the 19th of May 2021. So my mother's birthday just kept bringing me luck. Yes. So I did keep that interview date. I went to Barbados with my husband. My son is a US citizen, so he did not have to do all of that. So it was just the two of us. We went to Barbados, did all our works, and July, they literally, the agency that is, gave me to be in the US by the 13th of July. So of course I had to, like, it was crunch time. I had to think of what I was doing, what I was selling, so that's pretty much the time frame of my process. Let's bear in mind that the process time may be different for everybody, because one thing that worked for me, as soon as they asked for something, I would submit it. They asked for my birth certificate, I would submit it. Asked for my passport bio page, I would submit it. I did not sleep on anything because I know what I was working towards, and I knew that I wanted to be in the US by a certain time. So I did not sleep in terms of my documents, right? So that was a long explanation, but so that brings me to my next question. What study resources did you use, and what time frame do you recommend? So the first time I did the exam, I used the Saunders. That's the Saunders NCLEX review, I think it's called. I also used REMA, but I didn't pay for the REMA program. I just did exam questions online. She would also have these free exams, like free programs where you have like a 3-day NCLEX review, etc. So I would do these, and also I did a little marquee. If you're a nurse and you're watching this and you have seen the Saunders book, you know how thick the Saunders book is. I literally read this cover to cover. Literally cover to cover. So you find that when it was time for me to write my exam, I was rushing because that took quite some time. So I didn't have much time with the Mark K audios and the REMA. So the Saunders took a lot of my time, but we'll delve into that a little later in the video. My second time, I did the Archer review, the REMA, and Mark K audios. Let me just say, these really do help. Really, really, really do help. Anyway, do you have any study or exam tips to share? So my study tips, first, I feel like 6 weeks to study before the NCLEX exam is ample time. You don't need to study 3 months before. You don't need to study 5 months before. Just because we're human, we tend to get complacent. We tend to not give our all if the period in which we're studying is very long. I know myself. I know that was me. So I gave myself 6 weeks to study for my exam. I did not want to get complacent. I know 6 weeks is literally like comes like this. So there was no time to make excuses and say that I was not studying. There was no time to beat around the bush. I had 6 weeks. That's what I gave myself, and that's what I used to study. That was my time frame. Also, I would recommend a study timetable. So like I said, I used 3 study resources. So I would break it up. So probably I would do on a Monday, I would do in the morning for maybe an hour, I would do the REMA. Then maybe in the afternoon, that's on my off days, of course, I would probably do the Archer. Just what works for you. So maybe in the night where your attention span is a little low, you'd probably do questions, practice questions, etc. It's whatever works for you, but I would recommend a study timetable. Also, take breaks. Take study breaks to just live. Don't turn down the little parties, the little free time, they'll get together with family and friends because you're studying. No, you need time for yourself. You need time to just get away from the books and all of that, because it really does get a bit overwhelming studying for the NCLEX. It does. So just take time for yourself, take time for your family, and honestly, don't overdo it. Also, my last tip, I think, no, there's one more. So I would say to stick to resources which teach how to take the exam as much as they teach content. And that was my issue the first time I did not pass. So with me, I did a lot of content. Like I said, I studied the Saunders from front to back. I read the Saunders book. Of course, perfect. It had a lot of content. What it did not teach me, however, was how to take the exam, what words to look for, what keywords to look for, what to pay attention to. With this NCLEX exam, if you have heard or spoken to anybody who has taken it, it is tricky. It is tricky. It is not tricky to make you fail, but it is tricky to keep you alert and keep your mind active. So just honestly, that was it for me. I needed I needed resources which would teach me how to take the exam, and that is what Archer and Mark K and Rima did. So they all taught you, in addition to the content, especially Mark K. I swear by Mark K audios. He is an amazing lecturer. He teaches you how to answer the question as well as like quick ways to remember the content. Very, like, literally, I am in the nursing field right now, and I remember, like, I revert to some of the things that he taught to remember, like, basic drugs, etc. So he's very good. If you don't do anything, do Marquee. Listen to the Marquee audios. Don't say I didn't put you on. But yes, definitely get whatever resource you do or you plan to do. Make sure it teaches how to take the exam as much as it teaches you content. And last but not least, I invested in the quick facts. So the second time around, I did not just do the 3-day reviews with Rima. I actually paid for her program. I would probably give the program a 7 out of 10. I honestly felt like I learned a lot more with the Archer and the Marquee as opposed to the Rima, but it was a good review program. And the quick facts, even if you don't pay for the review, get the quick facts. What I did with Rima, I recorded myself reading the questions, and I would say the answers 2 or 3 seconds later, giving myself time to say the answer. So what I would do, I would play that in the vehicle on my way to work, on the bus, in my AirPods. I would just listen to that and ask myself the questions. Once I asked myself the questions, I would listen, answer, and of course I would listen for the answer to see if I was correct. So that worked perfectly for me. This is something that you can do as well. And we move to the exam tips. So my tips for the exam would be to read each question twice. Read each question twice, as cliche as it may be. It does help. Read each question twice. Why was the airport hanging in my hair? Anyway, stick to your first answer. I was known for, even during my practice questions, I would always switch my answer. I would choose one answer, and then when I read the question, like break down the question and do all things that they never asked me to do, I would switch my answer, only to see when I later reviewed that the answer I first chose was right. And that happened so many times. So I told myself that second time in that exam, listen, whatever you think is the answer, whatever you choose first, as soon as you choose it, just move to the second question. Don't analyze, don't overanalyze, do not reread, just move on. And that's what I did. Do not spend more than 1 minute on a question. And the reason I say that, that is pretty much the time that is allotted per question. When you spend more time on a question, that gives you room to analyze and overanalyze, right? So when you start reading and breaking down and just, things change, the question looking different and all of that, just avoid all of that and just do your 1 minute allotted and just move on to the next question, right? And last but not least, look for keywords. So there are like known keywords in the NCLEX: priority, that's one. Priority, accept, best, most. These are all keywords. They are usually, not all the time, they are usually capitalized to make you see that that is what they're looking for, not all the time, right? Question number 6. Do you think reading the Saunders textbook before getting the online reviews is necessary? To be quite honest, in retrospect, I feel like it was a waste of time to read the Saunders. The online reviews, they give you all the information that you need. They give you all the content that you need. There is no reason to read the Saunders. I read the Saunders back to back for my first NCLEX exam and I failed. So I did not do it for the second and I passed. So that shows you that you do not need to read the Saunders to pass the exam. Will the agency provide clinical training before you start? So yes, my agency, the one that I was with before as well, they offer you clinical training. The one I'm currently with, I wouldn't say clinical training as opposed to your orientation period. Of course, you're on orientation, so things that you're not familiar with, things that you're not confident with, they will show you how to do it, they will teach you how to do it, etc. So you're entitled to an orientation period with all your agencies that you may be considering or that you are with. Is there someone to guide you when you get to the USA and help you settle in? So with Passport USA, you have an arrival coordinator. The arrival coordinator is the person who comes. So their office is based in Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio. They send somebody from their office to meet you wherever it is you're landing. So if you're going to New Jersey, if you're going to wherever you're going, Connecticut, they send a person from Ohio to meet you at the airport to settle you in. So this person stays with you for 2 days. They are pretty much there to help you settle in and teach you the ropes as quick as they can. So my arrival coordinator was amazing. I liked her. She picked me up from the airport, brought me, we had to get something to eat. She got us to get something to eat, and then we went to the hotel. She stayed at the same hotel with us. At that time, she gave me, you have the option of getting a phone from the company, a new phone, or a SIM card. I just got my phone this year, so I opted out of a new phone and I chose a SIM card instead. So she helped me to set up my SIM card at that time, of course, because I would be needing it to move around. They would be needing to keep in contact with me. So that very night that I came, she helped me set up my SIM card and my voicemail. The next day, we went to pick up my vehicle. This is another thing that they provide. You have a rental vehicle for up to 6 weeks with no charge until you are ready to get your actual vehicle that you ordered. That vehicle would have been ordered while you were at home in St. Lucia, whatever country. You would have had to pre-order this vehicle, and while you wait for your social security, if the vehicle is not already in the US, you would have to have a rental. So she helped me pick up my rental, showed me the ropes of the new vehicle. Everything is on the opposite side, literally on the opposite side. She taught me how to pump gas. That's what they're supposed to do, because like we are accustomed to in St. Lucia of having an attendant pump our gas, that is not it in the US. So she showed me how to pump gas. She brought me to a Walmart just to, these are all the things that they do with you. So just to get groceries, whatever it is I needed, she went with me, and we had to do some paperwork, some new hire paperwork. We did that, caught lunch, and that was it. So pretty much that's what the arrival coordinator does on the first 2 days. And from the third day going up, you're assigned to an arrival ambassador. So the arrival ambassador is somebody who you would have met in my previous video had you watched it, which was Lovejoy. She went through the same process that I did a couple years ago. So she has been here for 3 years. She went through that same process. So she now is just my go-to person if I need help with anything. So she's helping with getting my actual driver's license, helping me if I need any help with the tests, etc. So anything that I need that I'm not sure of, thankfully I had my friend here, so I did not need to overdo it with bugging her and keep asking her. My friend was here to help. Sue was like amazing in terms of hooking me up with a lot of things that I probably would have gotten stuck with, but that's for another show. Anyways, yes, so they do help you. They do assign somebody to you so that you're not alone, you're not feeling lost in a new country. However, you are not guaranteed an arrival ambassador, because if there is no person working for your agency in your state, then of course they cannot send somebody to you. So you have to have somebody already working in your state that they pair you up with. If unfortunately if there's no one before you, let's say you're the first person that they're sending to a state, then sadly you're on your own. But of course they do help you. I mean, if you email and stuff, they will give you answers, etc. So how long do you have to work for the agency, and does working overtime contribute to that time? So my contract period is for like 3 years. It's in hours. They give it to me in hours. So it's like 6,000 something hours, which pretty much adds up to about 3 years thereabout. My agency does count overtime towards your actual time with them. So the more overtime you work, the less time you have to spend tied to the agency, which I find was amazing. That was a plus for me. So definitely yes. How long after you take the exam do you get the green card? So I gave you my full timeline. I did my exam in 2021, May of 2021, and I was up here by July 2022. Like I said, the time frame is not a fixed thing, that it's different for everybody. So don't think because I got up here in 1 year that you're going to go up in 1 year. The time frame is different from everybody. It's according to how you hand in your documents that they're asking, and I guess share luck. Well, no, not luck. Praise. Praise, because God, he really did come through. Really did. How long is the waiting period between taking the exam and moving to the US? So that is pretty much what I just answered. About a year for me, about a year. Do your family members get the green card at the same time with you? So yes, your family members, initially when you go to your embassy interview, you're told right away whether you qualify or not. So at that time, you're given a visa. So you're given an immigrant visa, which allows you to move to the US, and this is valid for about 6 months, right? Within that 6-month period, while you're using it and while you're able to work, etc., then you get your green card mailed to you while you're already in the US. So you're not going to Barbados to get your green card. You're going to Barbados to get your visa, your immigrant visa, and while you're in the US already working, that is when you're going to get your green card in the mail, right? What is the interview process like with the different hospitals? For me, like I said, I went with my first choice, but Passport USA did prep me in terms of, well, they didn't do mock interviews or anything like that, but they did give you a list of questions that are likely to be asked. So you had some guidance. So once you are familiar with the questions that are likely to be asked, you're on the right track in terms of answering your questions properly and engaging in with your interviewers during that interview. How much would you recommend someone have saved up for the US transition as well as the embassy fees? So I am not sure. I don't have a figure. It's all dependent on your expenses. So let's break down the embassy first. With my current agency, they do not provide you with airfare to Barbados. They don't provide you with accommodation. You have to take care of all of that on your own. Now, I had no issues, and I knew that because they don't take money from my salary weekly or monthly or bi-weekly, whatever it is. They don't take money from my salary. Listen, if you're not taking money from my salary, then sign me up. Sign a sister up. But because they do not, then you find that you have a lot of pre-deployment expenses out of pocket. So with the other agencies that are common and popular back home, they do pay for all of that. They cover your travel to the embassy, they cover your accommodation, they cover your airfare, they cover everything. But they do take a chunk out of your weekly salary, or however you get paid. They do take a chunk out of it every time you get paid, in addition to you working these hours for them. So that was like a deal breaker for me. No. So that's mainly the reason I chose to go with Passport USA. But like I said, so if you're going to go with them, you need to have your airfare, your accommodation in Barbados, your transportation to and from the agency. You do your medicals in Barbados as well. So the embassy has this specific clinic that they send you to get your medicals done. And of course, you pay for my advice to you, get as much as, if not all, your vaccines or your vaccination in St. Lucia, your Hep B or anything that is required to be in the US, get it in St. Lucia. Especially as a nurse, they're subsidized, so you do not have much to pay. When you do go to Barbados, it's pretty much your blood work and you have a chest x-ray to do, which is what you're paying for. But your vaccines, if you miss out on any, you do not have to be fully vaccinated, don't get me wrong. So if you have already taken a Hep B shot, you've already taken a DTaP shot, then you don't have to take that when you go up there, but at least have one, because if you don't have any, you will have to take it. And the vaccine's not cheap. 50 US for one shot, 100 US for one. Take my foolish advice. So I was put onto that early, and I was able to not pay any additional fees. So I think I don't want to tell you a lie. I'm not sure. I don't remember how much the clinic fees were, because of course you have to pay to see the doctor. There's the standard clinic fee. That is all we paid. My husband and myself, that's all we paid. We didn't pay anything additional. So that was a good thing. So of course you would have to factor that into your expenses, your transportation to and from the clinic, transportation to and from the embassy, all of that would be included. And of course you would have to pay your embassy fees. For me, my agency paid it. Passport USA paid my embassy fees, but my husband had to pay his own embassy fees, which was, I think, 345 US per dependent, that is. So if you have 4 children going up with, you would have to pay for each child. That's pretty much how it works. For the US, my airfare was covered. However, my husband's airfare was not covered. My son's was not covered. So you would have to factor that into your expenses as well to cover airfare for your dependents. Also, the agency, I'm not sure for the other agencies, but Passport USA did give me an estimate of how much to walk with. So they estimated 2,000 US per person. So it was myself, my husband, and my son. It was 6,000 US per person that we were recommended to walk with. In addition to that, they do give you a welcome bonus pretty much of 1,500 US, and you have housing allowance of 3,000. It's actually 2,000 US, but I guess because of the recession and prices going up like crazy, they temporarily increased it to 3,000 US dollars. So you pretty much getting like $4,500 from the agency as soon as you get there. And yeah, you work with your additional 6,000, well, 2,000 per person, I should say. For me, it was 6,000. You may want to work with a little more because it's especially dependent on the state you're going. If it's a state where cost of living is expensive and you do have a lot of expenses, then definitely work with more. It does not hurt to work with more. So I would probably say at least $3,000 per person, in addition to whatever rival bonuses that your agency gives. And someone asked, what doesn't the agency cover in terms of fees? Well, I just ran through that. And another one is asking, how is it traveling with children? So for me, like I said, Jace is a US citizen, so I did not have any story in terms of having to send all of these items for him, all of his documents, etc. That was something that I was very grateful that I did not have to do. But of course, anything that you would have to do for your dependent, like I said, my husband, you would have to do for your child. So you would have to pay the dependent US embassy fees. You would have to pay airfare for them. Like I said, my friend was a major help. Sue helped so much. So she was able to get Jace enrolled into a school before I left St. Lucia. So that was a major plus for me. So Jace starts school in about a week and a half. So if you are able to, try to get the child enrolled before. It can be done once you're up there. It's just something that is an extra thing that you don't have to do. And of course, it takes a lot off of you. So I am grateful for her because she really did come through and she's still coming through. It really does help having somebody who knows the ropes and can guide you and can help you in terms of just settling and adjusting. It really does help. But this brings me to the end of my questions. Like I said, I can probably do a few more videos which are tailored to certain things which were asked there, probably study tips, different things. So if you are interested in maybe a few more videos which just are more detailed than this one, please let me know in the comments. Like, share, and do subscribe. If you don't do anything, subscribe to the channel. Okay, go now, subscribe, because you don't want to miss out on all the little info I have to give, because I am giving Passport USA for now an 8 out of 10. This may change when I start to work. I have not started work as yet, so you do want to keep abreast with what I'm going through to know that if that is an agency that you want to go with, or if you would prefer going with another agency. I'm going to be as transparent as possible with my experience. I'm not going to hide anything from you guys. So if you are interested, please do subscribe. Tell your friend to tell her friend to tell her grandmother, because you need to stay updated. And of course, you can follow me on my other platforms, Ashi Shants, on TikTok and Instagram. Bye.